Good afternoon. Welcome to another episode of Unscripted and Unchained RPG Review. I am DM Bloodworth, and as you can see by the graphics, today I'm going to be talking about Dungeons and Dragons, particularly in the beginning, Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, and its handling of the Nine Hells, Devils, and the fact that my channel hit 666 subscribers yesterday is the reason why, I kind of felt it would be a nice thematic way to, to celebrate hitting that number and talking about this topic. So as you can see here on the screen, I'm showing one of the images that really stood out for me and got me interested in potentially running a campaign or a series of adventures that would kind of introduce this to my player characters at the time. And then my GM as well, he was kind of doing the same thing, although he leaned more towards using demons, and having those become adversaries, at least the lower level demons, becoming adversaries of our character group. And myself, I was looking more towards devils and having various devils appear in the prime material plane as either, a like a sub boss or kind of the power behind the big story. So this here image comes from Dragon Magazine, I believe at the time, and I'm going to showcase those Dragon magazines as well. So on to the history of the Nine Hells and Devils in AD&D. I'm not going to go into a tremendous amount of detail in this because there are literally papers and all kinds of information out there for this. I'm just going to do a really quick overview of basically my memory of the time and show you the progression over these 40 some odd years of this topic in the game. So to begin with, I'm going to show you the first introduction that I had to to the whole idea of devils in in AD&D. So this is Advanced Dungeons and Dragons First Edition, a monster manual. I'm not sure which printing this is. It's not the original printing, but when you turn to the devil section here, they have a description of devils and devil's talismans and basically just talking about the entity and the hierarchy of them. And as you can see here, and I guess I will have to adjust this a little bit to come closer and capture everything. So here we have the archdevils, and it really starts off, the monster manual starts off with two of the main archdevils, all right, and that's Asmodeus and Beelzebul. And in later versions of the monster manual, they're removed. Many of the archdevils are removed from the monster manuals, and I believe that they're moved over into the deities and demigods. So, but this is your very first introduction to devils in Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, and it goes through the first two. It's alphabetical, obviously. It goes through the first two, which are both archdevils. Then you have barb devils, which are a lesser devil. Hit dice are 8. And so this is something that a mid-level character can actually, a character group could actually start to face and be challenged by. You have bone devils, which are lesser devils, which are level 9. And these could be the servants of fairly powerful mages or evil clerics or whatever that you can have in the on the prime material plane. And so they are summoning up, and I'll have to keep on moving this back and forth to capture the images here. Disbatter is an archdevil. Arenes, which these were in the White Plume Mountain adventure, certainly in the book. Garon is an archdevil. Again, once again, removed to the deities and demigods. I'm fairly certain. Horn devils. This is one that I had used in the prime material plane, and that's because it's only a 5+5 hit die creature. Very, very decent level of a challenge to introduce player characters to in a mid-level group. Ice devils are once again, and that's a greater devil, so they have a lot more abilities and powers than their hit dice might indicate. Lemirs are basically lesser type devils. Pit fiends are greater devils. These are essentially your Balrogs. I got a telephone ringing here. I don't know who that is. All right, so sorry about that. And then we go to dinosaurs. So this is this is the full range of the devils that were in the first monster manual. All right, and so this is going to run around 1979 through roughly the mid 80s or so, that they are in the game. When I turn to second edition, there are no devils or demons in this, and that is because during this time frame, the Satanic Panic was taking a hold of the hobby, and so this was a response to that, and it removed them from there. So before I move on, where they're reintroduced, let me switch over to a screen. So around the same time period, early 1980s, and so in this case it's actually 1983, Dragon Magazine had a two-part series on detailing the 9 planes of hell. And so this one article that I have up here by Rich Baker is talking about the write-up in the Dragon magazines that Ed Greenwood had done. And this you can find online very easily. It's Dragon Magazine 75 and 76, and the 9 Hells Parts 1 and 2. And so this here document kind of details what was found in both. So you have Avernus, which is a 5e campaign right now, or one of the more recent 5e campaigns is taking place in Avernus. So 5th edition is kind of bringing you back into this. A Paladin in Hell was a 2nd edition, that 2nd edition adventure, I believe, that even though devils are not in the monster manual, there were adventures, and that's reputed to be one of the best 2nd edition adventures written. So you have Avernus, which is the first plane of the 9 Hells. You have the second is Dis. The third is Minoros. Phlegethos. And if I'm mispronouncing them, I apologize. But Stygia, Malbolge, Maladomini, and they each say who the main, either, the Princess of Hell, you could see here the Duke of Hell. So it shows who lives on each of these planes and, what their ranking basically are. Kanaya or Kanea or Kania. And so you have a Princess of Hell who resides there, a Duke of Hell, which resides there as well. Another Duke of Hell, another one here. So you have quite a few, looks like about 4 or 5 different Dukes of Hell. And then Nessus, which is the final of the 9 planes of hell. And here you have the Queen of Hell. You have the Chancellor of Hell. You have the Inquisitor of Hell. A Duke. Another 3, 4, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Dukes. They have the spell adjustments and alterations in Hell. Cleric spells and their effects or lack of effects in the 9 planes of Hell. You have Druid spells, you have Magic User spells, and how they are altered by being on that plane or the planes. The Illusionist spell and its impact, as well as it will have the combat alterations, or character ability alterations based on classes, or psionics in this case as well. So they talk about how they're altered in some way to function there. Now, if you wanted to take a look at the original Dragon magazines, so here is issue 75, and you can scroll through, and we get to, this is an interesting thing. In my D&D Back Me campaign, one of my player characters, part of her backstory was that her family, she had a family member that was, something had happened involving a mimic, and so she wants to exact revenge on him. So I'll have to refer to that when I get here. So here's the original. So New Denizens of Devildom, a partial preview of the Monster Manual 2, which actually I should have grabbed off my shelf. But here they have some additional monsters from Monster Manual 2. And then here we get into Ed Greenwood's original articles. And so here it basically breaks down each of the 9 planes of hell and gives a full description of them and who lives where. And, and possibly even various adventure hooks or, reasons to have your characters involved, in these various planes of hell. So anyway, and then I have the second one here. Here's the second installment. So this is Dragon Magazine number 76. So I'm going to switch back over views. So once again, as I was saying, Monster Manual 1 had them, Monster Manual 2, they were removed. Now onto Monster Manual 3. so here's Monster Manual 3, and they do make their return here. However, interestingly enough, in the Monster Manual 3, I took notice that they pretty much just have the stat blocks, so no images. All right, so here continuing the stat blocks, and then when they do get to images, they're not matched up with their devil type, you know, and so here you have a bone devil and a pit fiend, most likely, but they're not exactly matched up. And then here we have a Caton, which I'm assuming they kind of, and a Hellcat. So these are just other devils or creatures that can be discovered in the hells. And then it moves on to, see, once again, it moves on to the Arenes, which was normally accompanied by a picture, you know, of a naked woman with a you know, with bird-like wings or eagle-like wings and such, and so removed from here as well, and the pit fiend. So just a taking back of the images, which might have been kind of a slowly reintroducing the monster types into the game system. Once we get to 4th edition, you can see that once again, and 4th edition a little bit larger, so I'm going to get harder time to get the image to show here. There we go. So 4th edition here, we have the images down at the bottom. So there's a bone devil. One of these could be a barbed devil. There's a bearded devil. Bone devil, they do the description here for bone devil. Still, chain devil, you saw the image in the beginning. Still stat blocks, a little bit more information. So they talk about encounter groups and the lore of each, and that's something from 4th edition that, you know, I really did like about that introduction to all of the monsters in particular, you know, in general for 4th edition Monster Manual. All right, here's a Legion Devil, which, you know, I don't recall from any of the other, you know, versions of this. Here is your very classic pit fiend down here at the bottom, the pit fiend. So basically a Balrog. But you'll see that now here they put the image of the Arene back in again, although she's not naked anymore, but she's very scantily clad. They move a succubus over to devils, which I'm almost certain a succubi was a demon in 1st edition. So let's see. Let's see, demons. Yeah, in 1st edition here we have the succubi and the section of demons. All right, they were chaotic evil, but here in 4th edition they're moved over into the category of devils. All right, and let's see if they did an alignment change. It's just evil now. So, but as you can see, no accompanying, you know, picture of them. And finally, we go to 5th edition. So here in 5th edition, we have a description of devils. We have the hierarchy. So lords of tyranny. We have the obedience and ambition, the dark dealers and soulmongers, the infernal hierarchy. So archdevils, greater devils, lessers, lemurs, promotion and demotion. So they talk about actually how devils will rise and fall within that hierarchy. Then it has a description of the 9 hells, not in the same detail that Dragon Magazine did. All right, and once again, not the images with each until you get to this section here, where they have a few of them detailed. Here you have the Erinyes, and here she's obviously fully armored now and, completely covered up. So you can kind of see the evolution of, of that particular depiction having changed from start to finish, from first edition to, third, fourth, and now 5th edition. Ice Devil, Lemur, Pit Fiend, Spine Devil, and once again, no succubus here in 5th edition. Let's see if she's in. Let's see if she's under demons. It appears that succubi were completely removed from 5th edition overall, at least from what I could tell. So that's an interesting thing to note as well. So one thing that you could do with this is, as we did back in the early 1980s, is we looked for ways to bring devils into our campaigns as being the dark power behind the scenes kind of thing, and devils, primarily being lawful evil in nature. That kind of plays into that alignment very well. They're going to be very plotting and manipulative of things going on in the prime material plane in order to put in these these major plans for turning a number of people over to turning them over to their side, basically, or to amass followers that will then pass on souls to the 9 hells. The 9 hells are very political, almost like a Game of Thrones kind of politics. Once you get into what's going on in the 9 hells, whereas the abyss, run by demons, is always depicted as being extremely chaotic and unpredictable, and in many cases probably more dangerous than actually traveling to the 9 planes of hell. So and there being 666 layers of the abyss, and so that's the other thing that gets us to this here, where if I were going to use the 666 for the abyss rather than just devils, and then that shows you the disconnect between what we associate the number of the beast to be assigned to, and where D&D kind of breaks away from that more so. So we tend to associate 666 with devils rather than demons, Meanwhile, the Abyss is the one with 666 layers, as opposed to the Devil's only 9 layers. So, once again, I hope you enjoyed this, and there's some good resources out there to look up, as I had shown you. You can very easily bring up archives of Dragon Magazine and look at these various things, and it's an interesting add to your campaign. It will give your players that sense of dread the first time that they encounter a devil or a demon, and it's meant to do that, and so they'll feel that they're involved in something much greater, as a result of encountering these very powerful creatures. Even at lower levels, it will still carry that that awe for your player group. That they'll be like, oh wow, we've really delved into something that is that is much greater than simply wiping out hordes of humanoids, for example. So this is well beyond an orc or an ogre, or even a raid against a group of trolls or something. This is something that even takes going after religious cults, or powerful magic users. You're dealing with something really powerful when they're summoning creatures such as devils and demons into the campaign world. So once again, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed, please consider subscribing. Share this video out there with those that might, that you think might be interested in taking a look at it as well. And I look forward to seeing you on the gaming screen sometime very soon. You all be careful out there, and enjoy the rest of your afternoon.